I don't know. I guess you kind of have to die on that hill if you really
It's
want
hard to
to.
separate. It's hard to separate the two, and it gets harder for guys that agree with him to defend it. If they've got to consistently defend the person and the teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's two ways to do this Zoom thing. If you didn't know, there's gallery view, which puts us both side by side, which is very exciting, or there's speaker view, which I actually like better because then whoever's talking is bigger. I don't know if you knew that. It's pretty fun.
You can do that, not me, right?
No, I think you can do it too. Let me make
Oh, I
sure. I think
see.
I think we're live on Periscope. Um, I think we should be live on YouTube as well. Let's hope this is all working. Let me refresh this one. But yeah, I mean it's just getting kind of wacky on Twitter.
Well, people are locked in their houses.
Well, it's been wacky before the coronavirus lockdown. It's just been this whole hitting Twitter thing and just I don't know. I mean all of it. It's like everyone's trying to outdo each other and like the whole thing with like the 108 people, it's like trying to hold people hostage by using big terms, and it's like
That's the worst one.
that's the worst part for
I think
sure.
that's the worst one. I mean, I can handle arrogance for someone that thinks they know they have an answer to something, but I mean, just the talking down is tough. Like well, if you don't understand it, you probably need us.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, everyone. I believe we are live on Twitter, and we should be live on YouTube. It's 9:01. This is the morning Brushback YouTube show / podcast with Bobby Stevens. Bobby, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not as bored as other people. Like people have been asking me if I'm bored, but I'm kind of a recluse. So I don't know. I've been okay. I've been kind of in the web world
You've
myself.
been
How about you?
practicing this social distancing for at least a few weeks.
That's true. That's true. So I have a female friend in DC, which I only say female friend because I don't have a lot of female friends. But she was we got dinner one night, and then she texted me like 4 or 5 days later, and she's like, "Hey, a couple of my friends are out of town. Like, would you want to do something this weekend?" I'm like, "It's too soon." It's like, she's
It's
like, "You're like a
been a
10-day
month.
friend." She's like, "You're a 10-day friend, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, between like 10 days and like 21 days. Like, give me a couple weeks, and then maybe we can hang out again." Like, I don't have any ammo yet to
There's
talk to you. Like, it's kind of the way I am with everybody. I don't know, most people, but
You've exhausted all talking points. So this 3 days a week should be interesting.
yeah, yeah. Well, the only other person that I talk to a lot is our friend Zach, who we talk baseball a couple times a month, and that's just like he's on the road a lot and we talk. But I need to share this story as we get going. So I'm new to DC. I've lived here a month and a half. I've been on this coast, and like I was living in Northern Virginia and in DC a lot in the last 6 months since I moved here. But DC is a grid, so if you're downtown DC, it's a grid. So those streets are lettered A through Z, whatever, and then they're numbered. And the numbers go one way, which they are east to west, and the lettered streets go south to north. And so I've been running around since that's the only sort of exercise you can do now, except for doing weird stuff in your house. And the other day, I like went on my normal route, kind of cutting back into more of the center of the city, and then going up, and then coming back down. I was going to make this like big kind of figure eight loop. And then like on my way back, I ran longer than normal. I run into this body of water, and I'm like, that doesn't seem to exist in the middle of the city where I run all the time. This is very curious. And what had happened was I got up to this one part and I drifted, and then I actually like was running past my place like laterally, like much farther than I realized. I just lost track of what I was doing.
Right.
And so this body of water was actually on the other side. It was not in the center of the city. It was like half a mile east. And I said, And this was my fatal error, was that I thought this body of water was in the center relative to my place rather than being on the other side of it. And so I went left. I went more east. And this put me to this piece of government land that I had to basically do like a 3-mile loop around. Like I was like, all right, this has got to stop sometime. Like it can't keep going on forever. Well, it pretty much went on forever. And then I found myself, I didn't bring my phone, which I don't like running with this huge brick of a phone. So I was just like, I have my credit card, my ID, and my Metro card, and my keys, but no other way. And so I asked people to help me. I said, hey, like I'm lost. Can you give me directions? And they showed me. And then these two girls gave me directions and they showed me this fork, and both of them were wrong. So I went down the one, it was running, I hit like a second wind at like an hour later, hit the second wind going deeper into the suburbs, just like the exact wrong way towards like Hyattsville, Maryland. And kept getting farther and farther to where it was starting to get like towards nightfall. Finally asked for directions again, and the woman said, no, you need to get on the Metro because you're nowhere close to home. And towards the end, the street I started seeing numbered streets. So I saw like 12th Street. I'm like, huzzah, I've done it. 12th Street means I'm only like, 10 streets from my street. No, it was like just, how they have streets start to repeat in other places of the area. No, it was very far away. And if I hadn't actually talked to her, I would have like taken the numbered street that I lived on and just been like farther into no man's land, which was not actually a very good neighborhood. So I got on the Metro, took it home, and my whole run with including the Metro was about an hour and 50 minutes, hour and 45 minutes. I don't like running that much. I didn't want to run an hour and 40 minutes, Bobby. It was terrible.
The Ironman training.
Dumb. It was very dumb.
Yeah, you need to print out like the directions, how we used to do it back in high school with the MapQuest and the turn by turn. You need hard copy.
Well, I stopped at a bus station and looked at the map on it, and then still went the wrong way. So
I've only been to DC a few times, but you're in Chicago and you know that the lake is east, because if you hit the lake, you're not getting any further east. So as long as you have your bearings, you know a little bit about where you're at in Chicago. But DC it's not landlocked, right? But it's
landlocked, except
from what I remember about
river
DC,
that cuts through it.
Yeah, but what I remember about DC is there's like a 1-lane road in and a 1-lane road out. It's like it's almost designed to make traffic your worst nightmare.
It's the most bottlenecky thing of all time. So where I was living in the suburbs, if there was no traffic, it would take me 30 minutes to get to DC. If there was traffic, it would take me an hour to get 12 miles, like just to the first Metro stop that was close enough. And it would take a solid 2 hours to get to DC. But here's the kicker, is that DC has this ratcheted up, which I guess makes economic sense or whatever. You can't take the bridge from 66 West across the river into DC during rush hour because they make it an on-demand toll. So some days it can be $47. And when you're new to town, you don't necessarily know this. And one day I was driving, I was going to go all the way into the city. I can't remember why, but I started to see these toll warnings. It's like, today's toll, $42. And I called my brother-in-law. I'm like, hey, does this mean I'm going to get you? He's like, yep, you need to get off. Yep. You need to exit immediately. So I exited and only paid like $4 because all exits, as you get to a certain proximity to DC, have a toll. So they say like, hey, if you get off here, it's cheaper. If you wait a little longer, it's a little more expensive. Then if you go all the way across, we're going to take all of your lunch money. So, which is like really rude. They should make that clear to people who are new, because it's just like not clear. It's like, wait, does that apply to me? What does that mean?
Newbies are the money makers. Why would they make it clear to you?
I guess that's painful though. $40 for a toll. I mean, at that point, you've already driven most of the way there. You're paying essentially $40 for the last 10% of your commute. That's what's crazy. So anyway, I don't like driving, so I don't miss it. But
big city.
It's a big city. So quick baseball news, not good baseball news, but probably the only, I guess, big story right now is Chris Sale's getting Tommy John surgery. I think a lot less traumatic to the Chicago South Side where you're close to right now, but I mean,
where everybody had been predicting his Tommy John for the last 12 years.
Which
How long has he been in the big leagues?
Just because of his mechanics or what?
Yeah, I actually remember playing when he was drafted. He came to wherever we were playing. I don't know, somewhere A ball, maybe double A. to throw a bullpen. Long, tall, obviously looks exactly the same. Kid's had the same mechanics since he was 10 years old. But as soon as he got to the south side, it was, what do we got to do to change this kid? What do we got to do to change him? And I mean, he's been durable, for as hard as he throws and his body.
Super
I mean,
durable.
he's been very durable. So what do you there's, unless you get some kind of precursor, how do you predict Tommy John? I would say he's been as durable as anybody in the big leagues, especially for how many, quote unquote warning signs there were that this kid's going to need surgery at some point.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that's anecdotal. I mean, the whole durability thing is always frustrating to me because it's like, all right, so you're a big dude, you're like 6'5", and you've got really big legs. Like that makes your elbow ligament more durable versus, Chris Sale's tall and very lanky, very skinny. And like that puts his UCL more at risk. I mean, like the whole argument about it is it's just completely anecdotal. I mean, big, strong dudes that throw 97 get Tommy John, and skinny dudes get it too. But I don't know. I've never really fallen into that category where I believe that, hey, because you're thin, you're less durable. I mean, I don't know. They act like you're producing more velocity with your legs when you're bigger and you have a bigger lower half, but I'm not really sure that's true. Just like the way the stride is, like it's a lateral push down the mound. You have to be good at lateral movement. You have to have good core stability and hip rotation, all that stuff. I'm not sure where the thickness of your thighs makes you more durable in your UCL. I don't know.
Well, what was Pedro? 5'10", 160, through 100.
Yeah.
Totally durable throughout his career. Durability is, for whatever you think of it, or however you want to define it. Made every start. Went deep in the games. I mean, what's the predictor of durability? Big thighs.
I mean, I think it's mechanics, but then again, mechanics are suspect too. I mean, they're not great indicators. I think velocity is the tough one. I mean, when you throw super hard, I mean, it just increases the stress that's flowing through that ligament. But the one thing that's interesting is that, and they mentioned this, I don't know what study this was or where I got this data, but it was mentioned at I think one of the ASMI injury and baseball meetings that basically if you make it past 5 years of service time in the major leagues and you haven't gotten Tommy John yet, you're very unlikely to ever get it, which makes sense on the surface. Like if you've pitched that many years, which is a lot. I mean, 5 years in the majors, you're probably at least 28 on average, right? Probably closer to 30.
Sure.
So if you've made it to 30, that means you've been pitching since you're probably 8. So it's 22 years. If you've never needed it by then, you just like basically won the genetic lottery, and you've like made it through the gauntlet essentially. Like you're in smooth waters. Like you look at a guy like Max Scherzer, you'd think, Max Scherzer's thrown 2,000 innings, if not more, by this point in his career.
Right.
If there was like 97 every pitch, you'd think if it was a cumulative effect, which it mostly is, like the ligament doesn't just explode when it's brand new and like strong. It just degrades over time like a rope, losing strands. But if it was that whole degradation argument, then Max Scherzer should be degrading on every pitch. He's throwing 2,000 innings at 97 miles per hour, but yet he's still healthy, and he's probably always going to be healthy. He's probably never going to blow out his elbow. And so Chris Sale's kind of in that same bucket. You know what I mean? Like 10 years, tons of innings. I would imagine he's proven that his body's like good at attenuating the stress in his ECL. Like,
well, it's funny you mentioned mechanics, right? Because I feel like pitching mechanics, for as many absolutes as there might be, I don't know enough about pitching. You're the pitching expert, but another guy in Chicago, Mark Pryor, touted as perfect mechanics. He had calves as big as his thighs. This guy looked like the picture perfect pitcher, and injury riddled career. That's it. And then another guy that he pitched with, Kerry Wood, the same thing. Promising young career, maybe I wouldn't say cut short because he did pitch a long time, but he was gets hurt, and then they attribute a lot of that to his high school abuse of pitching in a doubleheader, throwing 150 pitches a game. Is that? I don't know if there's studies. I don't know what how much you can attribute to how much he threw when he was 16 years old, but you know, how do you predict it? You don't predict. Take You're gambling. It's a 50-50 shot on everybody you take. You know, like you said, Scherzer, without that track record of 10 years of just, take the ball every fifth day, you're basically on a time clock as to when you're gonna break down.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's correct. I think we're probably even undershooting Max Scherzer. He's probably what, a 15-year veteran at this point. So, it's just it's crazy. Let's see what he's got. 12 years and 2290 his innings total. So 2,290 innings. So yeah, I mean, and I was an example. I had Tommy John twice, and I also had 2 partial tears in addition to my full tears. So I had 4 elbow injuries and always had problems. You look back at my delivery, like there's one video of me throwing for a recruiting service when I was a junior or senior in high school. Like I had clean looking, like good together, like that kid's been taught how to pitch mechanics. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas today you can go through, and we know a lot more about pitching mechanics now. You could go through my video and be like, oh, well, his arm timing is a little bit late, or he's like a little bit, maybe he leaks a little bit, like those little things that are important, obviously. But you never say like, oh, Dan's got trash mechanics. Like if you looked at anyone and said that they have like ugly mechanics, it'd be Chris Sale. Like his mechanics aren't what you would teach a kid from scratch. But
Right.
obviously he's phenomenal. This is in no way a knock on Chris Sale. There's a million different ways to throw a baseball. Madison Bumgarner has a unconventional delivery, like a lot of wrapping. The lower arm slot. Chris Sale has an unconventional delivery. They're not how you would teach a kid. If an alien came down from outer space and he said, "Show me a baseball pitcher. Show me pitching mechanics," you would show him kind of like Mark Pryor, or you would show
Right.
him Max Scherzer, you'd show them Justin Verlander. They like look like the archetype, like the standard, like that's what you'd teach a little kid to try to look like. And then all the variances come into play, whatever. You wouldn't teach him to look like Chris Sale. You wouldn't teach him to look like Tim Lincecum necessarily, even though he's uniquely efficient and did all the interesting stuff to really, I think,
Yeah.
maximize his body frame. But you would teach people to, look like the standard pitcher. And I fell in that category too, but yet my elbow was made of paper mache, and um, these things happen. So there's a lot of other biological factors that you just can't know. Like maybe Max Scherzer's UCL is like 1.5 times thicker than a normal human.
He's an
You
alien.
know? Well, and the thing about stress, like
Simple
with the
solution.
Motus sleeve and the research where they say, okay, like Randy Johnson, we know that there's 90 stress points flowing through his elbow. But for Randy Johnson, he was okay too. Like he was never hurt, right? Dude was terrifying. Threw from a low arm slot, huge long arms, like long levers. You look at someone like him and you're like, oh, if his stress level, and I'm just making numbers, is 90, and that doesn't blow his elbow out over a 20-year career. If my stress level is 90, I blow my elbow out twice. Like everyone just has a unique stress level that their body can tolerate. And then you kind of monitor that. So if Randy's is 90 and then one season's mechanics are out of whack, so now he's at 105, then you might be concerned like he's producing more stress than he normally does.
Right.
So now he might be at risk. Whereas some other kid could be fine with 105. Some other guy could pitch 10 years with a 105 stress level, but Randy Johnson's in trouble if he's there. That's not his baseline. So it's kind of like, what is your body's baseline and how much can you handle? Because no one's ligaments are the same. No one's muscles are the same. No one's like, everyone's different. That's what's crazy about it. So
Tough off season for the Red Sox.
yeah, those poor guys. I was reading about their luxury
Yeah.
tax implications, all that stuff. It's
Well,
losing Mookie.
Boston never wins championships, so you got to feel bad for those guys.
I mean, they've won many more than the Cubs. So
I'm not a Cubs fan, but Red Sox don't win, Bruins don't win, Patriots haven't won in how long? Celtics. I feel bad for that. That part of the country is really deprived of
fair,
parades.
fair. All right. So moving on, hitting Twitter. Hitting Twitter's messy, and right now there's a big fight between. I mean, there's always bickering between coaches, right? But right now there's been a prominent former big leaguer kind of mocking a lot of the hitting guys out there. Take us through it.
So we got former big leaguer Jeff Fry, 9 years in the big leagues. Well, from all accounts, anything that I've read about him, a well-respected guy. More of a small ball guy to singles, doubles, gap to gap, not a power guy. Uh, but the main thing about the clash between him and coaches on hitting Twitter uh, seems to be what he perceives as like the gimmick drills, or you know using a PVC pipe, using a flat bat, um, maybe some sort of contraption on the body. I haven't watched his videos, all the way through. I'm just following along on the threads. Um, so, I mean, my big question is, especially, you're a pitching guy. I don't know enough about pitching drills, but at what point do drills become gimmicks? Are they stealing money? Coaches stealing money, $100 an hour from a player, and you're going to do, you know, I saw a drill. Someone sent me a drill yesterday with a baseball and a tube sock taped around the wrist, and the guy's throwing it, kind of simulating a long toss, but the ball can't go anywhere, type deal. I mean, I don't know where you fall on it as far as what are these drills gimmicks? Do they helpful? I personally see some useful drills with PVC pipe, insider bat, a smaller bat. The game has evolved. It's still see ball, hit ball, but the game has evolved enough to where not every drill is meant to take you from A to Z. Some drills take you from A to B. Some drills take you from B to C. So I don't, where do you fall on those? I see some benefit of them. I see the benefit of a former big leaguer telling me what he did, what he thought. I'm not ready to dismiss him completely, even though he is attacking maybe a little bit of what I would teach or some of the stuff that I would use. So, where do you fall on some of those gimmick drills and, some of the, I guess, the haves versus the have-nots of teaching?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, especially with the hitting world, because I want to talk about softball. I want to talk about baseball hitting as well, but especially on like in the baseball hitting world right now, I'm seeing a lot of drills that don't look like swings I've ever seen in games. And people are saying, this is good. This is the way it's done. And I'm like, no, I've never pitched against one pro guy who ever swung that way in a game. That's my problem. When you watch some of these on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, you'll see a guy just really lean back and
Sure.
they're just very dippy, and like that swing doesn't exist in real baseball. So it's like, don't tell me that that's the way we should be swinging. Now, if that's like something you're doing one day or you're like working for feel for something, fine, you can contextualize it. Drills are not always real life, but like when you're showing me, oh, this dude's hitting this ball 105 and it went 420 on the hit tracks, it's like, okay, but that's not a swing that any human does in real life.
Well,
And
so
I've seen
that's where
some of these people.
you hit on it, right? Like that's where you hit on exactly what it is. Are you doing something for feel? I'm trying to feel my back hip. I'm trying to feel like I'm whatever. You're doing this and doing that versus this is how Mike Trout swings. So this is how you need to swing. Um, which is where Twitter's good and bad, right? You share information and everybody kind of gets a little bit of, I take a little bit from this guy, I take a little bit from this guy, but there's no context in some of these drills. So, I'm Jeff Fry. I used a batting tee and we took batting practice whenever I played in the 90s. Like that's what we did. I hit 290 in the big leagues. You're doing all this other stuff. You're an idiot. Fair enough, right? This is you speak from your own experience. Whereas if I'm in the cage with a kid who's 15 and he is consistently hitting the ball, killing worms, making divots right in front of home plate. So I'm giving him this. Okay, feel this. Try and feel like you're falling back towards catcher, just to get him to get more through the baseball. Whatever you're teaching, feel versus real is a real thing. I feel certain things that maybe I didn't do. You hear A-Rod and all these big leaguers talk all the time on MLB Network. They felt like they were going down to the baseball, and essentially they do, right? The bat starts up here and it travels down. It just doesn't travel forward and straight down in real life. But
Yeah.
I don't discount the feel of Alex Rodriguez. You know, he speaks about hitting, you listen. Whether or not his thought matches what he did, you know, you hear Mike Trout talk, and it's funny when you hear Mike Trout talk because he's very calculated about what he says in everything, but especially in hitting, because it's like he wants to give you a little bit, but not his total. You know, he doesn't want to give you all the secrets because those secrets make him the best player.
As if that would matter.
Right. They make him the best player in baseball, though. So he gives you enough, and he gives you certain things that he's thinking about. But, you know, sometimes, like I tell kids all the time, I tell guys that we work with, or I work with at least, you know, your thoughts are adjustments just as much as they are, you know, to keep you on the straight and narrow. You know, if I'm consistently late, you know, as a hitter, I might need to think, pull the ball foul, you know, hit the third base coach. And that might get me back to a neutral position. Whereas some guys that are consistently early might need to think the opposite. They might need to think first base coach, right field foul pole. You
Yeah.
know, so when they're explaining it to you, there's got to be some context in what he's saying. You know, you just give a guy 2 pieces of PVC pipe, a tee, and some different colored baseballs, and screenshot it. He's going to look like he's stealing money, or, you know, selling you selling you a bill of goods that makes absolutely no sense, when in reality it might make a lot of sense, and it just might be a different way of thinking.
Yeah, I remember, and I'm certainly not on the Alex Bregman train. I'm on the opposite train. I like to push his train off the tracks because of that whole cheating scandal. But
Sure.
I think like a year ago, he commented on a video of like someone in the hitting guru area, no one that we've been talking about today, but he basically just like, nah, that swing right there doesn't play. And he was absolutely right, because it was one of those swings I was talking about where, you know, kids just like so leaned back and so dip and drive. Maybe that's not the right term for it, but just like back shoulder dipping, just like huge uppercut. He's like,
Right.
that swing doesn't play, which is spot on. And then the guy is responding back to Alex Bregman, and he's showing him videos of Joey Votto, and he's like, and it's like, those two don't look anything alike. That's not, you're like, Joey Votto doesn't swing like that. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the video that you posted, a video of Joey Votto, and now here's your kid that you're working with. They don't look the same. Joey Votto is much more upright. Sure, every hitter has a lean back, but not like these crazy ones that you're seeing. And not their shoulders not dropping. Your hands
Joey
aren't
Votto's
dropping.
great.
Yeah,
Joey
he's the
Votto's
man.
great example, because you see him, I mean, playing first base, doing things that try to get him to whatever he's trying to feel in his swing. He does these very exaggerated on deck swings. You know, his drills are very thought out as to, it's a feel. He wants to feel something. You know, I tell a story. I was in spring training, and we were waiting to take batting practice. We were playing the Red Sox, or they might have been by our place. For whatever reason, Pedroia's in the cage. Gets 6, 7 baseballs flipped to him, pounds every ball foul at, you know, third base dugout. I mean, like, didn't square one up. Steps out of the cage, you know, round of 7, steps out, and he tells, you know, they're over there talking, and we're kind of, you know, a couple of minor leaguers are just listening. And he said, you know, they're like, how are you done? Like, you know, end on a good one. Everyone says, you know, one more, end on a good one, whatever. And he's like, he's like, I've already felt what I'm trying to feel for the day. You know, I already felt it, something to that effect, you know, without quoting him, which is what batting practice and some of these drills are designed to do. Let me feel what I need to feel when I know I'm going well. And whatever gets you there, if standing on the mound and putting a tee off of it and stepping uphill on the mound and hitting the ball straight up to the catcher makes you feel like you're good for the game, then, you know, confidence trumps everything.
Yeah.
In all aspects, really. So if that makes you confident, then you do it. You know, I can't tell you what makes you feel good in the cage. I can only tell you what I felt from my own experience, which is the big argument. Like, what percentage is it experience? What percentage is it your own success? What percentage is it some guy who has broken down the best swings and explaining to you literally what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and we're gonna move on in a second because we're gonna run out of time here. But yeah, so I mean, good thoughts, and you're right. It's about feel, and that's one of the things that I used to reinforce with a lot of my pitchers because everyone wants to throw one more. They throw a bad curveball to finish, or bad they want to finish. I'm like, nah, we're done. They get like one chance, and if they don't throw their best one, it's like, nah, like you had a good bullpen today. Your last pitch has nothing to do with your first 40 that were good. Like you got something out of it. Same thing with Joey Votto. Like doesn't matter what he ends on. Like if he got what he needed out of it, he got what, and that's I think very profound. But I mean, the whole thing with the Twitter universe and an argument in general. I know you watch Joe Rogan's podcast. I've actually been just new to it. I really haven't watched it before, but with the quarantine, I've had a little more background noise on. But Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about if an argument goes past 5 minutes, he said like no one's ever going to yield their position. Essentially, in very very rare
yelling
cases.
at each other.
Yeah. So like when I look at this guy, Jeff Fry, which I respect his career and like he's not wrong, but like mocking other people on the web, it's just like not going to get anyone anywhere. It's just going to make other people more pissed off and entrenched in their vote, in their views. And like, I don't know, you're not really convincing anyone that way. It's a strange thing. That's kind of why I stay out of Twitter a lot because I don't really care to argue with people that much. I'll like stir the pot once in a while, but
Twitter's
like
become the new town square, right? Twitter's become where everyone congregates to share ideas. Before technology, you went to the town square, you sat around, the old guys sat around, talk about how the new guy, the young people are idiots.
And you could throw tomatoes at each other if you wanted to.
Well, that's the word you want to talk about, right? You want to move on to what is it? You've been sitting around clearly way too long if you've got heavy thoughts on this, but you put in here, what is there a difference among spaghetti brands? How many spaghetti brands? So is it the sauce? Yeah. How many have you open your pantry? What do you have in there?
Well, I don't want to spend much time on this topic because we've been cruising, but so my sister loves Raoul's spaghetti sauce.
That's the best one, by the way.
I got some at Costco, and I haven't had I don't eat much pasta, and I don't think I've had a spaghetti based meal in like probably a year. So I had some and I'm like, this tastes good. And I text her, I said, like, this tastes like spaghetti sauce. She's like, I hate you. Like, but
it's the best one.
I need stuff to compare it to. That's what I've heard. That's what she says. Is it healthier?
It's healthier.
Less corn syrup. Pretty much everything's corn syrup nowadays.
I'm all on top of that. Just we'll do a podcast strictly on stuff you shouldn't be eating.
That's fair. I don't know. It seems good, but yeah, I don't have anything to compare it to. Now, if I guess I got like $1 jar of something that probably tastes like ketchup, then I'd definitely be like, okay, Rao.
We call that ragu.
Guy. Yeah, that's fair. But last thing I want to cover today, and we'll get into this more another time. How do you feel about all the quarantine time filling ideas right now? There's a lot of silliness out there, but like, what's actually important?
I don't know. I'm already going stir crazy. My wife gets to work from home. I'm obviously in the baseball sports world, so it's hard to. Yeah, I know. That's I'm just basically bothering her at this point at work. Like I'm the 10-year-old kid off of school that has nothing to do. So I think yesterday I watched some Curb, like some Seinfeld reruns, but it's gotten to the point where I'm like quoting it to myself. So quarantine ideas are welcome. I don't have any good ones currently. I'll have some better ones Wednesday for everybody.
I mean, I guess my thing is I see a lot of workouts and it's already getting tired. Like the at-home workouts you can do. It's like great. The big challenges with at-home workouts is that it's hard to really do rowing exercises, and your back musculature is much more important than your front. Like you could do push-ups all day, which are great. Now's a good time to just do millions of push-ups. But loading your legs is hard without external weight. Like especially if you've been working out, you can't just do air squats all day, right? And it's hard to row anything substantial to get like your back musculature work. So things that are easy to do are arm care. You can lay on your kitchen table if you don't have a bench in your house or something, and you can do your dumbbell rows and your external rotations, and you can do your full arm care routine. That's easy. You can do push-ups and planks and core stuff, but it's hard to do your legs and your back. But I see like the creativity, and like I heard people leg pressing furniture, and it's just like we get to a point where just shift gears and just pivot. Like just go run some more, go find a place, go do some sprints. Sprints are very protective of your leg muscles and your hypertrophy. Like when you're sprinting, you're using a very high percentage of your muscle fibers. Like you're activating a lot of your muscle motor neurons, your motor units. And if you go sprint, you will protect a lot of your muscle. If you do push-ups, you'll protect a lot of your upper body muscle. Like your body will just continue to be fine. And if you go run, do some distance running, whatever, you're not going to like lose all your velocity. That really pisses me off when people are like, you should never run more than 60 yards if you're a pitcher. You're just killing your body's not that quick to just like fall apart. It just isn't. So I don't know. I think people are panicking. And maybe if I was still in college when I was a little more psycho about what I ate and what I did, with like the no days off mentality, maybe I'd feel a little bit different. But from experience, and you've been through a lot of long pro seasons where you just realize like you do what you can,
right?
And life's not perfect. This is just like a life's not perfect time. So like do what's easy that you're actually going to do. How many people are doing all these weird setting up your furniture as weight and like putting your feet up on 2 chairs and rowing a broomstick? And like, if it's really hard and annoying to do stuff, you're just not going to do it. Just like if you really need to get stuff done, bang out a bunch of push-ups, bang out a bunch of split squat jumps, put your foot up on a chair and do a bunch of Bulgarian split squats with no weight, then go outside and sprint a bunch of times and then go on a run the next day. Like you'll be fine. Like your training is not going down the drain in a month. So I don't know. It's getting a little crazy.
It's snowing in Chicago, so I'm not running anywhere.
Well, then gather up all the snow, put it in a bag, and then put that on your shoulders.
Throw it.
And yeah, like make a medicine ball out of snow. Like Frosty the Snowman's head's probably 8 pounds. You really pack it good, you could go do that.
Oh yeah. Well, shoveling is good for the back.
Shoveling's great. And yeah, you could go make big snowballs, carry them on your shoulders, and like do like a strongman thing. There's a lot of stuff you could do. But
it's almost April. I'm over the outdoor snow workout as well.
Yeah, that's why Chicago, as lovely and amazing as that city is, the climate's just terrible. I'm sorry, guys, but it's not good.
It's out of my control. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. Does anyone care about Mountain Time? And 6 a.m. Pacific, right?
I've got one listener. I got one listener Pacific, so he's gonna want to just
okay.
one.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, this will be here on replay on Twitter, Periscope. It'll be here on replay on YouTube, and these will be on in podcast land shortly. So just stick with us. They'll start flowing out via all your favorite podcast networks. So, Robert, thank you. It's a good morning, Brushback. All right. See you Wednesday. Thank you for watching.